get this question a lot. What are the conferences that we should be going to? Which ones have you gone to? Which are, kind of what do we do? There's this proliferation of MSP conferences. And you really have to pull the camera back and say, each person that's asking that question, one of them, for instance, was an executive search recruiter in the MSP space. And I think each of us needs to ask ourselves, well, what is our objective? If the objective is to grow the value of your MSP, then hands down, and this is really, again, thank you for giving me this question, hands down, peer groups, M&A peer groups greatly outshine getting conference connections when it comes to being able to increase the value of your MSP. And I'll give you some examples. 67% of our most successful MSP M&A platforms, and we've done 12 between 2020 and 2024, 67% of them were in peer groups. IT Nation Evolve is one of the premier groups, and they have 25 at this point private equity backed MSP platforms. And what they do, that's so incredible, being in a peer group, it's really a high trust community. If you think about it, you're in a group with 12 people sharing things about your family, things about your business, about your employees. Generally not in competitive. You're not. You won't have someone in your peer group that's in your same market, but you'll have peers of similar size MSPs. That, as opposed to like in meeting somebody in a crowded ballroom at a conference and saying, hey, let's merge together, let's bundle together and go try to get a higher multiple. That intentional high trust community of a peer group is really absolutely where you want to be, to wind up with an asset that someone like myself and our team can bring to market. And institutional investors, when given the choice, once it's explained to them, hey, there are these things called peer groups that MSPs have been fortunate to be members of for decades at this point, or they're MSPs that have just said, no, I'm not going to do a peer group. I can do all this on my own. I don't want to have a boss. I'm blah, 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 blah. Like, there's no question in the world that if there are things you can do to increase your value. There are things relationally, building your relational equity by being part of a peer group that are just second to none. We've put people in, and past performance is not indicative of future success. We've put people in airplanes and all sorts of other stuff, as a result of just wealth that's generated because of these relationships, is unbelievable. I think Integris is case in point. It just recapitalized. We helped it with its first recapitalization. It just went through its second recapitalization. Its EBITDA went from 2.5 of EBITDA 4+ years later to in the 30 range, over 10x. And it was because of that incredible Rashad's incredible relationship equity, and Arlen Sorensen's incredible relationship equity, that these peer groups, no question, if you have 1 hour of time, or and it can be spent going to in multiple, spending that going to random conferences versus peer groups, pick peer groups all day long.
Well, fair enough. And they can come, if they want randomness, they can come on my show or listen to my podcast for a little bit of randomness. So I'll definitely say, but Howard, I think this is related a little bit, because Abram observed the proliferation of conferences. And one of the things you and I were talking about leading up to this was a bit of the waves of MSP enablers, like the ecosystem around. And you've observed that you're seeing some shifts in the kinds of companies that are supporting. Give me a little bit of your thought on what's happening in that ecosystem of support around MSPs.
Well, first of all, let me agree with Abraham totally that peer
Oh,
group.
come on. I want a disagreement.
I'm sorry. Once in a while, I do agree with people.
Okay.
It's a bad habit. I'm trying to get out of it. But peer groups have are absolutely far more valuable. I mean, if you look at the shows, they've become very little more than social events